Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of NFL Xtra. Now we're in week 2 of the NFL, and yesterday had a lot of exciting games. In the second week of the season, we're going to break them all down and go over it, and then we're going to preview the game tonight between the Falcons and Eagles. So the first game was this past Thursday between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Now, it's no secret that the Buffalo Bills have Miami's number. It seems like every time they play, the Buffalo Bills seem to always come out on top. But the big story from that game, obviously, is the yet again another concussion for Tua Tagovailoa. It's the fourth concussion in 5 years for him. It's getting to the point people were on ESPN and all these sports pundits around the country were suggesting that he retire and stuff like that. And it's concerning because the play that he made where he got injured. Instead of sliding or going down, of course, he has a history of concussions, right? He dove like headfirst into Damar Hamlin's sternum. And the fact that it was just that too, plus his head hit the turf, hit the ground, and his head bounced off the ground. That doesn't help either. But, it's getting to a point where Tua's got to take care of himself, not just in the football field, but off the football field. And it just, he's got to talk with neurological doctors. He's got to talk with the team. He's got to talk with his family, his teammates, and just see what's best for him. I don't think he's going to retire, obviously not, but he has to put steps in place to prevent him from doing this again because 4 concussions in 5 years is a lot. It's a lot of damage to your brain. Your brain's not supposed to be jarred around like that. So going forward with Miami, they need to evaluate how he is and go from there. Of course, they will go with Skylar Thompson as their quarterback going forward. They're playing Seattle next week. That should be an interesting matchup for Miami. See if they can put any offensive weapons together with their backups. I believe they also signed Huntley from the Ravens today on the practice squad, so I don't know if he's going to start, but I think Skylar Thompson will be the starter for them going forward. They mentioned about Ryan Tannehill. I haven't heard anything about that yet, about Ryan Tannehill rejoining the Dolphins for this time being. But we'll see. I mean, it's very early. They could reach out to another quarterback before Sunday, before they play Seattle. So we'll see what happens with Miami. But, of course, Buffalo moves to 2-0. They look very good, very sharp. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC after the first 2 games of the season. They looked very, very good. All right, so after that, we move to Sunday football. And the first game on the dock will be the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this game was very interesting because last week with Cleveland, I don't think there's a more pathetic quarterback other than, of course, Daniel Jones in the NFL than Deshaun Watson. I mean, he just seemed like he was lost out there against Dallas. And they didn't have a game this week to really kind of find their footing, and they kind of did. It was a close game. 18-13 was the final score. It was a very, it wasn't really that competitive, compelling game from what I saw. But Jacksonville was interesting because they seem like they should be a lot better than they are, and they're not. Trevor Lawrence kind of maybe hasn't really taken that next step to evolve as a passer yet. I mean, there was a couple seasons ago where they were a playoff team, and it just seems like something is not clicking for them offensively. It just seems like something is off with Jacksonville right now. But kudos to Cleveland for getting that win. Cleveland's defense is still elite. That's never going to change. But their offense did just enough to win in Jacksonville. So Cleveland moves to 1-1. Jacksonville falls to 1-2. Or excuse me, 0-2. Excuse me, 0-2. So next up was the Chargers and the Panthers. Now, everyone's making fun of the Panthers, and that's not really fair, but it is what it is. Los Angeles goes in there and wins. The only concerning thing was the injury to quarterback Justin Herbert. He's being evaluated right now. We're still looking at him. I think he'll be fine to play for Sunday. Justin Herbert's a very tough player. He was tough when he was in college. He's been tough since he's been with the Chargers. I don't think there's going to be any concern there. In terms of the Panthers, the one thing I saw from that game, and it had nothing to do with what happened on the field, it's what happened off the field. Well, I was on the field after the game. Adam Thielen, great receiver, long-time receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. He took his helmet off, and you could just see the dejection and the exhaustion on his face. It's only week 2. So he can kind of see the writing on the wall that this franchise is well miles and miles away from being not just a team that could be competitive, but that could actually win a game. I mean, we're going to get to the Saints and the Bucs a little later, and they looked like two really good teams in the NFC, and Carolina plays in the division with them. So I can't foresee any chance they beat those teams at all. Not any of the time. So it's very disappointing. And of course, like the big news today was that Bryce Young, the number one quarterback that was drafted a couple years ago, has been benched. He's been benched. So 1 full season and 2 games, and Carolina is putting him on the bench in favor of the veteran, Andy Dalton. Now, can Andy Dalton get in there and win with this team? We'll find out. It's definitely interesting. Andy Dalton, of course, a veteran of the game, been with multiple teams, including the most notable being Cincinnati. But is the quarterback the biggest glaring issue? That's we'll find out. I mean, of course, Bryce Young has not played well. That's a given. Bryce Young has not really stepped up to be the number one pick that he's supposed to be. I mean, obviously, his Alabama days were some of the best quarterback play we've seen out of a quarterback in college the time he was there. But it just hasn't worked for him in Carolina at the moment. And that's the thing, if you're a veteran, maybe you've been in the league maybe 5-6 years, and you get benched, whatever, it's still not great, but you can learn from it. You've experienced some things like that. But now, with Bryce Young being basically a baby, right? He's basically a second-year player, sophomore season, and you get benched after basically what? 18, 19 games, right? So that's a big blow to a confidence of a player. And, unless Andy Dalton stinks up the joint, which I don't think he'll be as bad as Bryce Young, I don't think he's going to do what Sam Darnold's doing. We'll get to Sam Darnold in a little bit. But it just seems that the Panthers, I don't know what to make of this situation. I mean, is Bryce Young done in Carolina? That's the question. Do they look to trade him away? Do they look to trade him to Miami? To trade him to some other team that might need him? Because once you bench a rookie, it's very hard for them to get their confidence back. Look at Jameis Winston. He's a backup now in Cleveland. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting situation in Carolina because of what's going on with the quarterback. But at the end of the day, they need to find something that's going to work for them. And clearly, Bryce Young has not worked. They look to Andy Dalton to try and fix that. We'll see what happens with them going forward. Next game is very personal to me. It was the Seattle Seahawks visiting New England to play the Patriots. Now, I mentioned this in my picks that this was going to be a close game, and it was. It went to overtime in Seattle. So the thing I'm not happy about as a Seahawks fan is that they gave up over 300 yards of offense to the New England Patriots with Jacoby Brissett and Ramondre Stevenson. Not thrilled about that, especially when your coach is a defensive coach from Baltimore. But I'll say this much. I've been very, very pleased with what I've seen from Geno Smith throwing the football these past 2 games, especially yesterday. He got Jackson Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf involved for over 100 yards and 10 catches each, which is the first time ever that's happened for Seahawks receivers, ever. Not the Russell Wilson days, not the Matt Hasselbeck days, the Geno Smith days. DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba played really well yesterday. Great stuff from them. I have actually Jackson Smith and Jigba on my fantasy. He did really well for me yesterday, so that was good. Seattle being 2-0, it's good for them to start this way. They haven't really played anyone that difficult yet. Obviously, Denver is down bad. Bo Nix does not look great. And then New England, people think that New England's not going to be good either. So it's good they got these wins out of the way now before they play a tougher schedule. But I think when they get Kenneth Walker back, they'll be more dynamic. But Geno really played well yesterday. He played very, very well. Very accurate with the football, getting the ball to a lot of different weapons, and really being poised when he needed to be to get that team a win in overtime. The only thing I was concerned with is that it was 2nd and 1 when the Seahawks kicked the winning field goal. And I was like, well, you could run the ball more, you could get closer, and they decided to kick the field goal there. Okay, it works, but if it doesn't, you're scratching your head looking at them like, well, you could have got closer. But in the end, they did win the game. They are 2-0. They do play Miami next. That should be interesting because I said no Tua Tagovailoa for Miami. So we'll see how Seattle handles that. But they still have to defend Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert. But I'm looking forward to that game. The game should be interesting. This next game that I'm about to talk about, I don't think a lot of people pick this game to be an upset. I certainly didn't. I thought Baltimore would get their act together. Boy, was I wrong. So first of all, mad props and respect to the Las Vegas Raiders. Gardner Minshew played well. Devontae Adams played as good as he always has, especially that catch on the sideline where he just fell, he tapped his toes and just dropped which is you're taught to do that as a receiver. And Max Crosby just was attacking that offensive line all day yesterday for Baltimore. And hey, give credit where credit is due. Baltimore, obviously the more intimidating team. Vegas didn't care. They went to Baltimore's house and shut them down and won the game. So kudos to Vegas for getting that win. However, on the other side, Baltimore is 0-2. I don't know what to make of this, honestly, because before this season, it was all about Lamar Jackson, right? Running the football, passing the football, all Lamar. And it worked. It's not supposed to be that way for the quarterback. You have a running back behind you, but in this situation with Baltimore, it worked for him. It worked for Lamar. Now you go get Derrick Henry, who is an all-pro running back, completely changes the game. You can give him the ball 20, 25 times, and he'll change the pace of the game. They have not done that yet. They have not given the ball to Derrick Henry clearly enough, and it's affecting the game for the Baltimore Ravens. Now they go to 0-2. Next week they have Dallas, who does not want to lose again, which we'll get to that in a little bit. They don't want to deal with that again. Okay, losing another game, and then they had to play the Bills later. Cincinnati, we'll get to. Baltimore's schedule does not get any easier, and now they're 0-2. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong because Lamar is a talented player. However, it's games like that and games like that last week are why the Baltimore Ravens will never win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson as quarterback. Period. That's just how it is. Again, I'm not saying Lamar's not good. He is good. He's great. He's an MVP caliber quarterback. But when the game's on the line, it just seems like nothing seems to go right for him. From a popular football movie, The Replacements, when Shane Falco changed the play at the line of scrimmage, and Gene Hackman, Coach McGinty, says to him at the field, he goes, winners always want the ball when the game's on the line. And well, in that situation, Shane Falco botched it, and the game against Kansas City, Lamar botched it, and it seems like that's a recurring pattern for Lamar. Just when the game's on the line, you can't get the job done. And there are a lot of discussions probably happening in Baltimore right now how to fix this, but the first thing you got to fix is give the ball to Derrick Henry. Start with that, and then go from there. All right. Next, if you're a Jets fan, congratulations, you're on the winning. You have a winning streak of one game. So finally, the quarterback that came over from Green Bay last year, who played for about 4 plays, Aaron Rodgers finally gets a win in the green and white for the Jets against the Tennessee Titans. And it's good that they won this game. It was a very back and forth game, which I was kind of surprised. I thought the Jets would pull away. And, but good for the Jets to get a win with Aaron. Hopefully it gives them some confidence going forward. They can continue to play well. I have just seen such inexplicably just horrible throwaways from Will Levis last 2 weeks. One in Chicago, then yesterday. Just throw the ball. He's like throwing it, and it goes to the defender. It's just he needs to just find a way to throw the ball on the ground, maybe, or they should punt the ball like they said last week. So Titans go to 0-2 in the AFC South, and again, kudos to the Jets for getting a win. Good for the Jets to get this win. Tennessee looking at 0-2. Not great, especially who was in the AFC South, the Houston Texans, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, Tennessee looks a little rough, especially losing Derrick Henry. Didn't help them. I mean, Williams threw a great pass to Calvin Ridley in the end zone, but it was a little not enough offensively for the Titans in that game. But good for the Jets to win that game. It just we'll see how Aaron can continue to improve over yesterday. Then the game probably the biggest upset of the day, and then I have something to say about this game too. Other stuff. So, the Minnesota Vikings, in the beginning of the season, drafted J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. He was going to be the starting quarterback, probably, right? Then he gets hurt. He's lost for the season. And also, they trade Kirk Cousins away in Atlanta. So now, you figure Vikings going to start over, starting from scratch. But then, like I said, J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. Then, they start Sam Darnold. And you're like, well, we'll see what he can do. They win last week against the Giants. Whoop-de-doo. You beat the Giants. Congratulations. You won. But this week, this week, you're going to play the San Francisco 49ers with Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Mason, Nick Bosa. Good luck. They didn't need luck. They did not need luck. The Minnesota Vikings, at home, beat the San Francisco 49ers, including a 97-yard pass from Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson, who is on my fantasy team, by the way. Thank you for the points. And they just seem to play better in the crucial moments. And now Minnesota is 2-0. Who would have thought that? I mean, clearly, in the NFC North, you thought Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, those teams competing for the division, and Minnesota will finish last. Chicago's 1-1. Green Bay, 2-0, okay. Detroit's 1-1. Minnesota's 2-0. They look good. Who would have thought that? But hey, props to Minnesota. Props to Sam Darnold for hanging in there and proving his doubters wrong, because I was sure one of them. I thought Minnesota was going to be a bottom team, and right now they're 2-0 with a lot of confidence and playing very, very well. Now, on the other side, San Francisco. Oh boy, where do I begin? So, I am a player of the video game Madden. If you're not familiar, Madden is the NFL football video game that comes out every year. And there is always a stigma with the game because of who's on the cover. Now, you can go down this list if you'd like, but it seems like when someone is on the cover of Madden, something happens to them, whether it's an injury or their play regresses on the field, something just out of the ordinary for them, right? Well, this year's cover athlete was one Christian McCaffrey. And what team does Christian McCaffrey play for? The San Francisco 49ers. Now, he missed yesterday's game with a calf and Achilles injury, and they put him in the IR, so he'll miss the next 4 games. Won't be back till sometime in October. And then when Kyle Shanahan was asked when he's going to come back, he clearly said, I don't know. I don't know. And it just seems like the Madden curse has struck them in the worst way. You lose Christian McCaffrey, who's clearly your best player. The team is struggling. I think there's another injury today with somebody. Yeah, Deebo Samuel, I just saw on my phone. Deebo Samuel is going to miss a couple weeks with a calf strain. The Madden curse is really hampering down the Niners this year. Not just Christian McCaffrey's loss, but your team is hurt. Your team is losing to the Vikings. I mean, they got to figure out something. Because, without McCaffrey, I mean, hey, Mason was great last week against the Jets. Mason was fantastic. He was so good. But you need McCaffrey back. This team needs to get back. 1-1 is not bad. Not bad. But Seattle's 2-0. Seattle's 2-0. But yeah, Madden curse is on it this year. McCaffrey is hurt. It feels like missing half the season. Not good. Not good. All right. So now the next game, which was surprising and not the win, but the score. The New Orleans Saints come into Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. After Dallas looked so good in every facet of the game against the Browns, they came to play against the Saints. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. They didn't come to play. They just showed up, but didn't do anything else. New Orleans annihilated them yesterday, and it was just embarrassing. Last time the Cowboys were in Jerry World at home, they played in the playoffs against the Packers, and the Packers blew them out their own building. The game was over by halftime. And yesterday was kind of the same thing. New Orleans Derek Carr looked fantastic. Alvin Kamara ran the ball really well. They just looked like a really solid team, and I will be on board with the Saints team now. The Saints look so good. I mean, I'm looking forward to them playing the Bucs. That should be an interesting game. The Bucs and the Saints for that. I mean, that's my teams now in the NFC South. Bucs and Saints. It's going to come down to those two. I don't have much confidence in Atlanta, and I have zero confidence in Carolina. So, but hey, Saints look so good. It's nice to see that because I like Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr got a bad rap in Oakland/Vegas, and he was really good for that team. And then he seems to not have much confidence in him anymore and let him go. And I'm glad he's having a resurgence in New Orleans because he's a really good quarterback. He's really fun to watch. He's really dynamic. He's got a really good arm. And I think this team is going to rally around that. And the Saints team is exciting. They're exciting. But a big win yesterday on the road. Dallas just got whipped. And they got to recover because they got to play Baltimore next. And Baltimore don't want to lose again either. So we'll see what happens. Dallas and Baltimore, that's a game somebody doesn't want to lose. We'll see how that goes. All right, Giants and Commanders. Now, I did pick Washington yesterday, but I picked Washington to blow Giants out of the water. Didn't happen. The Commanders scored 7 field goals, won 21-18. Jaden played okay. I thought he was very accurate. No touchdowns, no turnovers. But I thought he was very accurate. He ran the ball well. He needs to learn how to slide. He needs to learn how to get down out of bounds. Obviously, as a rookie, he'll learn that. But he needs to learn how to slide and get out of bounds and just protect himself because it's, you saw what happened with Tua. You have to make sure you're protecting yourself at all times or you can get really, really hurt. This game is not safe. Of course not. It's very dangerous. So, but, Washington did what they need to do. They look good. Like I said, Jaden threw the ball very accurately. Getting Austin Eckler involved was on my fantasy. So was Jaden Daniels on my fantasy. So they looked good yesterday. Terry McLaurin could have got more involved than I thought. But at the end, Washington did just enough to beat the Giants. And now the Giants. Oh boy, the Giants. I think there's a game later this year between the Giants and the Panthers. I think it's in another country. I think it's in Germany or something like that. I'll have to check that when the time comes. But my goodness, those poor German fans have to watch that because the Panthers are the worst team in football. That's a given. I mean, the Panthers just look like a disgrace. I think Ohio State could beat Carolina right now. But Carolina is bad. They're worst team, but the Giants aren't too far behind. I mean, Daniel Jones, I said before, is not that good. There's people saying that certain scouts are suggesting that in the draft, the Giants might look to draft Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. That's a possibility. I think this franchise is done with Daniel Jones. I think they're finished with him. Like I mentioned last week, I've mentioned previous times with Hard Knocks, they got rid of Saquon Barkley, big mistake. You're relying, and I feel bad. I mean, Neighbors played great yesterday. He was fantastic. But you're relying on Daniel Jones to win you games. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Daniel Jones will not win you games. You don't have enough. You don't have enough around you to win games. You just don't. They came close, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So I'm about to say hand shoes and horn grenades, but horseshoes and hand grenades. But yeah, the Giants just look like a disgraceful team, and it's not going to get any better. Honestly, like Washington only won by 3, and Washington's a young team with Jaden Daniels and the team they have. So Giants, they lost to Washington by 3. What do you think that's happened when they played Dallas or Philadelphia? Yikes. So, boy, Giants are a mess, and I see changes are coming, and not just on the field, front office too. Anyway, so next is the Bucs and the Lions, which is a game I picked the upset. That's right. I love this Bucs team. I think Baker Mayfield's finally found his team. Good for him. They still have Mike Evans. They still have Chris Godwin. They have a really good team, and this is Baker's team. He's commanding this team. He's the leader of this team, and it showed yesterday. They played so well defensively, really getting in Jared Goff's head. It picked him off a couple times, and just were able to really silence the Lions at home. The Lions are, of course, one of the perennial teams to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, and Tampa Bay came in there at home yesterday and really played a really solid game. And like I said, with them in New Orleans, the NFC South, I think, is between those two teams. And you love to see a team that is, obviously, Tampa Bay's been 2-0 last couple of seasons in a row, but this game felt different for them. You had a team that was in the NFC Championship game last year, really close to going to the Super Bowl, and Tampa Bay comes in there and just does what needs to be done. And they looked very, very good doing it. Obviously the Lions, a little concerned there for Amon-Ra St. Brown, got hurt a little bit. And, of course, oh, my goodness, Aiden Hutchinson just went off his sacking game. I think it was 5 sacks yesterday, which is ridiculous. 4.5, 5 sacks. Crazy stuff from Aiden Hutchinson. But Tampa Bay, keep your eye on them. I cannot wait to circle that game. Tampa Bay and New Orleans, the first time they play, that to be a really fun contest. I think Lions will be okay. It just depends on the health of Amon-Ra St. Brown. But great game yesterday by Tampa Bay. They looked really, really solid. Really good. So now we move on to the Colts and the Packers. I did pick the Colts, but the game was a lot closer than I thought it would be. Malik Willis did just enough to win the game, which is great for Green Bay. They don't lose a game without Jordan Love there, which is good. I thought Anthony Richardson did not look good at all. Threw a couple picks. They still were in the game at the end, but it just seemed like a lot of mistakes were made by Richardson in that game, and they had a chance to win it too. They only lost by 6. So Colts obviously lost a really heartbreaking game last week to the Texans. Now lose again to the Packers. Go to 0-2. Packers are 2-0. Good stuff for Green Bay to win at home without Love. And I thought the Packers looked good enough, just good enough to win. Is that going to help them? Is that going to really, going forward? It's probably not going to win them a lot of games the way they played yesterday, but it was good enough to win yesterday over in Indianapolis. They're still trying to find their footing with Richardson in his second year on the team after recovering from injury. Rams and Cardinals. Whoo, boy. Boy, oh, boy. Rams and Cardinals. Wow. Is Arizona a sneaky good team? Maybe. I mean, they almost they were beating the Bills last week before the Bills came back. And then yesterday they hang up 41 points on the Rams. Finally, Marvin Harrison Jr. got involved. Scored 3 touchdowns all in the first half. Kyler Murray was running around, scrambling like he used to do in the early part of his career. So they look good so far, Arizona. The Rams, it might get worse. Cooper Kupp is injured. They don't know when he's gonna miss a couple weeks. And then they only scored 10 points yesterday. Oh, boy. I'd be interested to see how Arizona does the rest of the way. I'm not looking forward to playing them because, honestly, even when Seattle was like Legion of Boom good, they still struggled against Arizona. So we'll see how that goes. How that goes. But, the Rams just got obliterated yesterday. It was just a beating by the Arizona Cardinals. And, there's no Aaron Donald on that sideline anymore. So the Rams got to figure things out because they got embarrassed yesterday. Steelers and Broncos. No Russell Wilson again, still healing from a calf injury, so Justin Fields took the field again. And Denver's a mess. As good as Bo Nix looked in the preseason, he hasn't looked that way at all this year, at all. It just seems like he's making mistakes, throwing turnovers, and is not the same player he was in preseason. Justin Fields did a little bit better yesterday, throwing the ball through a touchdown. They won 18-10. 13-6. My bad, 13-6. So they did just enough to win. I don't know if Justin Fields is a starter going forward unless Russell Wilson is still hurt. I think you give Russell Wilson a chance to show what he can do if he's healthy. But the Steelers are playing really good defense. They're playing really, really well on that side of the ball. Of course, with T.J. Watt back there on defensive side, he's looked really good. And, George Pickens obviously on the receiving side for the Steelers. And they're just playing really good football. That's all you can ask for them to do right now. Are they doing anything, groundbreaking? No. But I'm interested to see how they play against, like, Baltimore and Cleveland. So teams in their own division, see how they do in there. But they're 2-0. Hey, give them credit. They're 2-0. It's working for them. But we'll see what happens going forward. But the defense is playing very, very solid right now. I want to say 18-10. I was looking at something else. Was there a score? Was even a score yesterday 18-10? I don't think so. No, I just pulled that out of my butt. Okay. 18-10 does not exist. Gotcha. Okay. Anyway. The game of the day, of course, was the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow returning to Arrowhead, or as Burrowhead as they like to call it, to face the Chiefs. Now, we all know what happened yesterday. Now, yes, you have to make that call because it was the right call. However, it just seems that a lot of the times when it comes to Kansas City, the refs are making the decision for them. Right? Again, Harrison Butker still has to make that kick. It's not an easy kick, but, the refs gave them the opportunity to kick it. And, of course, if you watch that play again on the replay, there was holding on the Chiefs. They were like two offensive linemen holding a Chiefs Bengals defender, and there should have been offsetting penalties, and then you replay fourth down. So it's funny how they see one penalty but don't see the other. So I'm still not backing off my pick for Super Bowl for the Bengals. That proved yesterday even more for me. Joe Burrow outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Period. He outplayed him. I'll say this much too. Jamar Chase needs to get his head in the game. First of all, it was not a hip drop tackle. If you don't know what hip drop tackle is, it's when the defender grabs the offensive player and kind of rolls on them with their hip, like they tackle them with their hip, and they maybe land on a lower extremity, maybe injuring a leg or a knee or something like that. That was not even close to what happened. So Jamar Chase must be frustrated with the lack of money or whatever. You worry about that off the field, not on the field, and it cost his team 15 yards, and that's where they got a field goal. And Joe was trying to calm him down, I don't know. But you cannot do that in a situation, especially in that game of that magnitude. But I think Joe looked great. Yes, Joe looked great. The reason they lost was not because of Joe Burrow. Yeah, the fumble, that did hurt, but Joe Burrow played fantastic yesterday. Better than Patrick played. So I think the Bengals are going to be okay. 0-2, they're used to that. They went 0-2 the year they went to the Super Bowl. So I think it's fine. But I think Cincinnati's going to be fine. But yeah, it's just a sour taste that Cincinnati lost that way because of a call. Again, it was the right call. It was the right call. But it's a shame that the game had to finish like that. It was a good game all around. Just that's not the way you want to see the game end. All right. Sunday Night Football. C.J. Stroud hosted Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Now, I'll talk about Houston in a second. Chicago, their defense is legit. Their defense is elite. They held the Texans to less than 20 points. 19-13 was the final score. C.J. Stroud in the offense is explosive. C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon. They got a great team offensively. And they scored 19 points. Chicago's defense is very, very good. Very good. They gave Chicago's offense so many chances to score and take the lead, and it just didn't happen. But the defense, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, your defense is solid. Defense is solid. Offensively, Caleb needs to get rid of the ball quicker. That's obviously a thing you have to do when you are a rookie. Make sure you're releasing the ball fast. If you're releasing it fast, release it faster. Because Houston's defense is ridiculously fast, especially Will Anderson on the defensive side. He's going to get to the quarterback. The offensive line just was not able to handle the pressure from Houston's defenders. And Houston, to me, I think Houston, right now, is the best team in the NFL. Best team. Because of who they have offensively, who they have defensively. They just look solid every side of the ball. And right now, they're my pick to go to the AFC Championship against Cincinnati. That's my pick. Houston's AFC Championship game. Because Houston, they play in a division that no one's really going to challenge them. Obviously, Tennessee has their problems. Jacksonville and Indianapolis. I think Houston's better than them by miles. Miles they're better than. So it just depends how they play out of conference schedule, interconference schedule. And if AFC South, they're fine. That division is theirs. But I'll tell you right now, Houston is going to be a problem in January. They're going to be a problem. And I'm hoping this team is as good as advertised because it's fun to see a team that's not Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore. Those typical teams you see in the AFC. I like Cincinnati, but those typical teams, it's nice to see a team enter the mix that's not them in Houston because it's been a long time since Houston was good. And it's finally time that this team takes a step forward because it's been a long time since they were good. And with C.J. Stroud throwing the ball and that team, they look so good yesterday. And I can't wait to see how this team ends up going forward. They look really, really good yesterday. All right. Monday Night Football coming up in a little bit while I'm filming this video. Atlanta against Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia looked so good last week against Green Bay with Saquon Barkley, the new weapon that the Giants just gave away, basically. In Atlanta with Kirk, not my Cousins. I like Philadelphia in this game. I think they'll do the same thing they did against Green Bay, where they will run the football with Saquon, pass the ball. A.J. Brown's being out is a little concerning, but they still have Devontae Smith. Again, they have Saquon Barkley. They have a good team, and they have Jalen Hurts, of course. Atlanta, I just don't know. I've mentioned before, I like Bijan Robinson. I like Drake London. I like Kyle Pitts. I do not like Kirk Cousins. Sorry. I don't think he's good enough for this team. Michael Penix, I'm making a prediction. Michael Penix will start by week 6. Michael Penix Jr. will start by week 6. Because I think Kirk Cousins is going to regress. He's going to throw a lot of turnovers. I think it's in the back of his mind. It's not there in the front, but it's in the back of his head. Why they draft a quarterback while I'm here? Why they do that? Why they draft a quarterback in the first round? I don't know, Kirk. I don't know. But I like Philadelphia in this game. I'm going to say 27-23. Close game. Philadelphia 27-23. And yeah, Atlanta might fall to 0-2, and that's concerning with a new quarterback. But Michael Penix is on the bench. Why don't you give him a shot? Give him a shot. All right. So that's going to do it for my Week 2 recap and picks for tonight. Season is getting really underway. A lot of teams are pretenders and contenders. We might talk about that next week right here on NFL Xtra. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Next, you know you support the content. If you like this video, leave a like and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the season so far. Who's your pick for Super Bowl? What do you think of the New York Giants? Bad or really bad? And are they bad or worse than Carolina? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time right here on NFL Extra.